The Shia Sunni divide is one of those things that some people have tried to explain with impartiality but failed. So today I am going to give a go at this. I'm going to try and explain the differences between the two major groups of Islam, Shia and Sunni. These are two sects basically. Islam was one religion under the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that was definitely okay. But this divide happened after his death. The contention was who would lead the Muslims after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Would it be Abu Bakr? Would it be Ali? Would it be Umar? Who would it be? For this, I will need to take you down to a history lesson. So let's go back to Medina 1400 years ago. It was 632 CE. Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had a fever and was on his deathbed. He had that year in the Hajj season, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave the sermon of Arafat, the farewell speech basically, and the wars were all over as well. It was the middle of the day, somewhere between Dhuhr time, but not really Dhuhr time. Aisha radiallahu anha screamed suddenly, saying, "The Prophet is no more." The reactions were mixed. No one could really believe that the Prophet was no more. Umar radiallahu anhu took swords and said that whoever says the Prophet is dead, I'm gonna strike him with my swords outside the Prophet's mosque. Only Abu Bakr radiallahu anh had the courage to go up to the Prophet's mimbar and say something unfathomable at that moment. The exact words were, "Whoever worshipped Muhammad, know that Muhammad is no more, but whoever worships Allah, know that Allah is ever living." No one worshipped Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was just a thing that Abu Bakr said to make people know that to let people know that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not immortal and that Allah is immortal in comparison. Then Abu Bakr radiallahu anh basically took on the responsibilities that a caliph is supposed to. He led the prayers, he gave advice, and so on and so forth. Then, after the Prophet's burial, the next day, contention set in immediately. Who should lead the Muslim Ummah? Should it be Ali? Should it be Abu Bakr? Should it be Umar? Who should it be? The group that we are, Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'at, the Sunnis, decided that Abu Bakr should take the place of leader, as Abu Bakr is the one who's leading the prayers anyway, and he's the one who's giving advice, so he should become the caliph. That was our decision unanimously, and every one of us Sunnis agreed to this, except there were certain people who didn't agree. One of the most important people who didn't agree was Ali radiallahu anhu himself. He was not invited to this discussion of who should be the caliph. So when he heard that Abu Bakr had become the caliph, he first denied it because he said that no, this cannot be. I was not invited. I am one of the Prophet's family members. I deserve to be invited to a discussion about the leader. And then after that, basically, the people made him understand a little bit, and Ali radiallahu anhu finally accepted Abu Bakr as the caliph at the last moment, and they shook hands and became friends again. There, any debate about the leader ended right there, and Abu Bakr was decided the first leader, and everyone pledged their allegiance to the new caliph Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu as-Siddiq. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was not a strict caliph. He was a very lenient caliph. He let the different tribes decide among themselves what to do. He didn't really do that much, but he was still the first caliph, and he's respected a lot because of this. I have to say something about this. Abu Bakr's caliphate was not as good as Umar radiallahu anhu's caliphate, which came right after Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's caliphate. Umar radiallahu anhu's caliphate actually was the first ever government body to introduce a police force, introduce spies, so that everything good and bad can be reported to the caliph, so on and so forth. But in Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's time, there was nothing of the like. There was nothing like this. And most historians, and I mean pretty much all of them, consider Umar radiallahu anhu to be a better caliph than Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. But Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the first caliph, and he was caliph during the time that the Prophet had died, and there was much uncertainty. So I don't really blame him for not being the best caliph. And Shias may use that against him and say that he was not good, so on and so forth. But he was a really good person, and he was good as a caliph as well. He was just not as good as Umar radiallahu anh, but he was good as a caliph. Anyways, let's put that aside and say this much. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was supposed to be the caliph. That's what we Sunnis decided. And if the Shias want to go against it, remember, they have all died. All of the caliphs, all of the first four caliphs have died. And yeah, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, they have all died. You cannot still hold this against them that one of them was the caliph and the other was not at first. What do you mean by this? Ali radiallahu anh eventually became the fourth caliph. That was okay. But he was never supposed to be the first one. And understand the context here. Umar radiallahu anh was very shocked and he was ready to kill anyone who told him that the Prophet was dead. He was standing there with swords until Abu Bakr said those words on the mimbar. And as for Ali radiallahu anh, his words had stopped. He couldn't speak properly after a long time after this. Ali radiallahu anh couldn't speak properly. He was like completely quiet for a few days. But yeah, that's why the best option was Abu Bakr. He had the courage, he could speak still, and he definitely could still lead the people in prayer and give them advice, just like he had been doing ever since the Prophet had gotten ill. Remember, the people chose Abu Bakr radiallahu anh because he had the most courage at that moment. And he was pretty close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not as close as Ali, maybe because Ali was the cousin of the Prophet. Abu Bakr was not that, but he was still very close to the Prophet. He was the father-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Aisha bint Abi Bakr, his daughter, Abu Bakr's daughter. And remember, this is not a monarchy that family members would take the throne after one family member passed away. That's not how Islam works. Yeah, this is not a monarchy and the Prophet was not a monarch. That's why this will not work. Ali radiallahu anh was not disrespected in any way. Yeah, he was not disrespected.